Mr. Speaker, Mr. Vice President, my fellow Americans, I want to start out by giving a big thank you to each and every one of our veterans, current serving military, and those who cannot be here with us today. Without each and every one of you fighting for our lives every day and fighting for our rights, we would not be where we are. American businesses have added 11.2 million private sector jobs in the past 5 years. I know it's nothing compared to the 4 million jobs that were lost at the beginning of our recession, nor does that make the last 5 years any easier for anyone affected by this or make up for it. But it is a start with our unemployment being lower than it has been since 1999. To reduce the persistently high unemployment rate in the United States, we need to move to relax some of our current constraints on immigration. I know this is a controversial idea because many people are under the impression that allowing in more immigrants would push up unemployment. But it would only be the case if the number of jobs in our great country were at an unchanging constant. In fact, some categories of immigrants tend to create jobs, so letting them in would directly increase employment opportunities for people already in the United States. The United States had a population of 76 million in 1900, 152 million in 1950, and around 238 million in the mid-80s. We are now well over 319 million, and according to official projections, on our way towards 500 million by the end of the century. No other industrial country can consider using immigration as a way to boost its economy simply because there's too much political resistance and too little by way of opportunity elsewhere. This is certainly the only place in the world where not all, but parts of the political left can agree with much of the business sector that immigration reform should increase the number of people able to come to the country. We should use this particular American advantage well. A little over 10 million uninsured Americans finally gained the security of health coverage just in the last year. As of today, there is only 12.9% of our nation that is uninsured. The uninsured rate has dropped 4.2 percentage points since the Affordable Care Acts for Americans to have health insurance went into effect 1 year ago. The uninsured rate declined sharply in the first and second quarters last year as more Americans signed up for health insurance through federal and state exchanges. The Affordable Care Act has accomplished one of its goals, increasing percentage of Americans who have health insurance coverage. This is a huge milestone for us. No one should have to go without any medical care for any reason. It's time for a fundamentally new strategy. That strategy is achieving the best outcomes at the lowest cost to you. We must move away from the supply-driven healthcare system organized around what physicians do and towards a patient-centered system organized around what patients need. We must shift the focus from the volume and profitability of services provided to the patient outcomes received. And we must replace today's fragmented system in which every local provider offers a full range of services to a system in which services for particular medical conditions are concentrated in healthy delivery or organizations in the right locations to deliver high-value care. Over the last 6 months, there has been an increase in police brutality cases. Ferguson, for example. Michael Brown, an unarmed black teenager, was shot and killed by a white officer, Darren Wilson, in Ferguson, Missouri. Several witnesses reported seeing an altercation in an SUV between Officer Wilson and Mr. Brown. Officer Wilson had fired 12 rounds, including 2 from the car and 10 more down the street, where Mr. Brown sustained at least 6 more wounds. The grand jury decided not to indict Officer Wilson in connection with the shooting of Michael Brown. The situation grew very intense. Buildings were set on fire and looting was reported in several businesses. The shooting prompted protests that roiled the area for weeks. In Baltimore, Maryland recently, in April, Freddie Gray, also a black man, was viciously attacked by police officers more or less because he looked at them. They subdued him, his spine was nearly severed, his voice box was smashed, and he was hauled off in a police van. During the event, he requested medical attention multiple times but never received it. He died a week later. After Gray's funeral, streets in Baltimore looked like a war zone after a night of riots, fires, and heartbreak. Buildings and cars across the city were engulfed in flames. About a dozen businesses looted and were damaged, and at least 15 officers were wounded. I believe these accusations were unintended, and unfortunately they escalated very quickly, leading to a total chaos. We as Americans need to come together as one nation and hold each other accountable for our actions. Circumstances like this does not need to be escalated. They need to be dealt with in a proper manner. Instead of rioting and burning your own cities down, this would have been a time for us to join together as a community and as a whole. The amount of money spent to rebuild their towns, pay for armed forces, and emergency services was astronomical, and in the end, it could have all easily been prevented. Nothing is impossible, America. No victory is beyond our reach. No glory will ever be too great for us. So let us go forward and create our world for tomorrow.